There's a fundamental flaw with the rule of thirds because it tells you where to put your subject, but not what else belongs in the frame. And just because you follow the rule perfectly doesn't mean you have a good photo, which is why you might get pushback from more experienced photographers. So I'm going to help you fix that in this video because I'm going to show you how to think like a director. So you're not just taking photos, you're creating images you're proud of and other people will actually take notice. So here's the thing, the rule of thirds is controversial depending on who you ask. Some photographers will tell you it's reserved for beginners and you should move past it as soon as possible. Now, I've been a pro photographer for 37 years and I've been teaching the craft for 15. And after all those years, I still use the rule of thirds and recommend it for all photographers, new and experienced, and here's why. For beginners, it's the easiest composition technique to learn. It gives you a starting point and a framework to work with. Something concrete when you're just figuring out composition. Now, for experienced photographers, it's a reliable fallback. When you're shooting fast or working a scene, the rule of thirds keeps you organized and gives you a solid foundation to build on. But here's what I've seen over and over again. Photographers learn the rule, they follow it perfectly, they put their subject right on that intersection point, and they're proud of themselves for following the rule. But just because you follow the rule of thirds doesn't mean you have a good photo, and that's the problem. Your photo doesn't look interesting or have that wow factor. That's because the rule of thirds is a placement tool, not a storytelling tool. It tells you where to put your subject, but it doesn't tell you what to include or what not to include, and more importantly, why it matters. So let me prove it using 4 of my own photos, and I'm going to share when the rule of third works and when it doesn't. And then in a second, I'm going to give you the exact checklist I use in the field to ensure when using the rule of thirds, my images have that wow factor. All right, so we're going to start with this image here that I shot in Monument Valley. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the grid here, and you're going to see that I followed the rule of thirds perfectly. So the mitten or the butte here is right on this intersection here, and I followed the rule of thirds. And according to the rule of thirds, in theory, this should be a good image, but it's not. It's average. It's ordinary, okay? So we have this boulder over here on the bottom left side of the frame. Let me turn on my layer here. And you can see it right here. It's blurred out and it's kind of intersecting the bottom corner here. And it's not really supporting the primary actor, which is this monument or the mitten here. And it's kind of like a visual wall, not in a sense of completely blocking it, but it is kind of blocking it a little bit, and it's not a great supporting element for this particular image. The other problem that we have is the sky here. It's kind of bland. There's no color in it. The sky overall is a little flat, so it's not all that inviting, right? There's not much of a story in here. We have some long shadows here throughout the frame, some shadows in here, but overall, this is just an average image that you're going to see from tourists typically, or photographers who haven't studied light or are chasing the color of light, and it's just kind of boring overall. Now let's compare that to this next image here. Go ahead and turn this layer off. And you're going to notice I also used the rule of thirds on this particular image. Let me go ahead and change this up here. And we have another butte right on an intersection here of the rule of thirds. So again, I'm following the rule of thirds, but this time it's much better, and here's why. So we have this nice silhouette with a little bit of detail on the butte here and the foreground that pulls you in. It's dark, but not too dark, and it balances out the sky, which is taking up about 2/3 of the frame, and that part of the frame is really bright. So it's balancing that brightness with all this darkness. So there's a nice balance and a little bit of symmetry there with the luminance values of the scene. Then the sky, of course, is the main element that is supporting my primary subject, which is this butte. So we have our lead actor, and then these clouds cutting across the sky diagonally here create energy and motion, plus the color is also pulling you in. We have the sun setting over here on the right, so it's a little brighter, more yellow there, so you've kind of pulled over there, but then the clouds, since there's so much color in the clouds here, that's pulling you back into the sky, and then the heaviness of the foreground and the butte pull you back down. So there's some nice views or looping views in the image. So your eye naturally loops around the frame because of all of these supporting actors supporting our primary actor here. So that's why this image is so much stronger. Even though I use the rule of thirds for both images, this image has that wow factor. All right, now I have another subject, this time a hooded warbler, and I placed my subject, the eye at least, right on that intersecting point, which in theory gives us a better, stronger composition. However, there is so much chaos going on in the image that everything around it is detracting from the star of the show. So there's no supporting elements or supporting actors or actresses that are complementing my subject. We have all these branches in the background and intersecting through the subject here, and everything is big and heavy and detracting and pulling our eyes away from that primary subject, the star of the image, the hooded warbler. We also have this large empty space that is not really complementing or assisting with directing our eyes toward the star of the show. I love negative space, but this negative space here is not doing anything for this subject. Yes, I could crop in tighter to eliminate that, but that doesn't get rid of all of this chaos going on in and around and behind the star of the image. All right, so let's check out our next subject, which is this ruby-throated hummingbird. And you can see I applied the rule of thirds again. I placed my subject right on this intersection point. Once again, I didn't place the eye there, but it's not necessary. It is nice to have it there to create a stronger composition, but as long as you have your subject on one of these intersecting points or the third right or third left of the frame, that's fine. That's all you really need when applying the rule of thirds. But this time, the image works 10 times better than the one before, starting with the background. There's no chaos. There's nothing competing with the star of our show, the ruby-throated hummingbird. This time, the background supports and complements and is the supporting actor of the primary actor, okay? So we have this nice creamy bokeh in the background. We have some greens and some yellows and some light browns over here. So we have these nice earth tones in the background that is, again, supporting the primary actor in the show. We also have a nice, simple perch this time that the hummingbird is sitting on, and it's not competing for, it's complementing and supporting the actor and the story in the image, because we have this nice leading line here as well, pulling us in. This leading line here takes this away, but it's not as strong because it's a little smaller, and the height and the size of the hummingbird in the frame pulls us into this part of the frame versus down here. The other part of this image that is telling a story is its tongue. So it's sticking out its tongue right here, and that adds to the image. Now, if that wasn't showing, it would still be a great photo. We have a nice leading line from its eyes looking over here, and that's known as an implied leading line. And we want to know naturally what it's looking at. We are curious by nature, and we want to see what it sees. So we automatically follow that leading line or that implied line in the direction that it's looking, and that kind of completes the loop of our eyes naturally navigating around the frame, and our subject is supported by all of these different actors or elements in the frame, and it has that wow factor that this hooded warbler did not have. So think of your photos like a movie scene. Your subject, that's your lead actor, right? And yes, the rule of thirds helps you place that lead actor in a strong position in your frame, but no lead actor performs alone. They need a supporting cast. So here's the checklist when you're in the field. After you place your subject, ask yourself these questions. And yes, this is going to be a little bit harder for wildlife photographers. It's something you're going to have to practice, but the more you practice, the easier it gets. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what's my background doing? Is it clean or cluttered? Is it supporting the subject or competing with it? Are there bright spots, high contrast edges, or random shapes pulling attention away? If the background is messy, the rule of thirds will not save your photo. Second, where does the viewer's eye go next? So after the viewer lands on the subject, do they stay in the frame or do they exit? So look for visual leaks, lines that point out of frame, bright areas near the edge, heavy shapes that pull attention away from your star. And if your eye leaves, then the scene breaks. That's when you're going to lose your viewer and you lose that wow factor impact. The third thing you want to ask yourself is, how many layers can I include in my image? For example, in this image, I do have a foreground, even though it's dark. We do have a middle ground of this butte. We have another mountain range in the back. That's the background. And then we have a sky, which is another layer. So the more layers you can create, the more depth you add to your image. Even one additional small foreground element can add depth, but it has to complement everything else in the frame. If it blocks the story like a wall, like in that first butte, it's not a supporting actor, it's a distraction. Fourth, what balances your frame? Does the subject have space to breathe? Is there visual weight on the other side to keep the frame from feeling lopsided? Balance doesn't mean symmetry. It means the frame feels stable, like everything belongs. Now, the fifth and last question you need to ask yourself, to me, is the most important, and it's all about light. What is the color of light? What is the quality of light? Is the light shaping your subject? Is it creating mood? Is it giving you separation? Because as you saw with these butte images, one has beautiful color quality of light versus the other. And even though the placement was following the rule of thirds, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary was the light. So the rule of thirds isn't wrong, it's just incomplete. Use it to place your lead actor. Then use this checklist to cast your supporting actors and build the scene around them. That's how your photos go from ordinary to extraordinary and give your images that wow factor. But here's the next problem. If you stand where everyone else stands, your photo is going to look flat and it'll look like everyone else's. To make your images feel three-dimensional, you need depth, and depth comes from layers. So watch this video next, and I'm going to show you how to build depth with layers so your landscapes and wildlife photos feel like you can step right into them.